Yep, we're doing a deck tech on Ulamog.
HyperdriveMTG.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? HyperdriveMTG here. I'm your host, Austin, and today we are going to be giving you a deck tech on how to build Ulamog the Defiler from Modern Horizons 3. Let's get right into it. Let's first talk about the commander, Ulamog the Defiler. Ulamog the Defiler is a 10 mana, 7/7 legendary creature Eldrazi that reads, when you cast this spell, target opponent exiles half their library rounded up. It has Ward, sacrifice 2 permanents, and Ulamog also reads, Ulamog the Defiler enters the battlefield with a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the greatest mana value among cards in exile. It also says Ulamog has Annihilator X, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on it. This is obviously a very scary nuclear bomb-like commander, and you get what you pay for in terms of mana cost. It is not a very nice commander at all. It is a very mean strategy to use this as your commander. I caution you when building this deck because you're probably going to make a lot of people really upset. However, if you have really high power playgroups and they are used to really high power things, this will probably be a good fit for you because it's going to be a very impactful commander and is going to make you the target very most of the time. The goal of your deck is to get Ulamog the Defiler out as early as possible, which is possible by turn 2 or 3 in the deck list I have designed for you guys. And otherwise, your main options and strategy are to either double his cast trigger or double his Annihilator trigger using triggered ability doublers, or giving him haste so that he can immediately annihilate people out of the game, putting you in a good enough position to usually win the game. For doubling his cast trigger, there are only 4 effects of this kind in colorless. Abstruse Archaic is a good one, but is pretty high costing. So is Echoes of Eternity, but Echoes of Eternity probably requires the least setup and doesn't require a mana payment. And then probably the best ones of all are Strionic Resonator and Lithoform Engine, because they're relatively low to the ground. Although Abstruse Archaic is debatably better than Lithoform Engine, but Lithoform Engine is more versatile. Strionic Resonator is the best out of all of these effects because it's only 2 mana and only costs 2 mana to activate. When you double Ulamog's trigger, it's pretty simple how it works. You first exile half their library rounded up, then you just do that same process again with the already exiled half library. So therefore, you first exile half their library, then you exile half their library again. It's not doubled and you do the entire thing. But just to be honest, doubling his cast trigger is mostly just for memes in this deck. It is pretty devastating to do it if you can pull it off, but what's more important than any other stat or keyword in this entire deck is the fact that you need to give Ulamog haste as early as possible, or ideally, the turn when you cast him. Haste is so important in this deck because it allows you to knock people out of the game practically immediately if he is not answered. Haste is such a devastating keyword to put onto this creature because it just ends the game there on the spot in most cases. I'd even go as far to say that the fact that Ulamog doesn't have haste initially on the card itself is the only reason why this card is being kept in check and is just worth the mana cost that it is. Yes, all of its effects are really broken, but if this card had haste, it would literally probably be banned in almost every format. It is disgusting. The one other thing that is keeping this card decent is the fact that it can't be cheated in or reanimated. The fact that you have to hard cast it to get any value out of it is the reason why the card is good, and the reason why the card is not entirely broken. So it is by far, in my opinion, the most worth mana costed card at 10 mana for a big style effect of its type. Giving it haste makes it game ending. There are a lot of ways to give Ulamog haste and colorless, and we run basically all of the best ones. The best ones that we have by far are Lightning Greaves and Lava Spur Boots. Lightning Greaves, because the equip cost is 0, it's pretty easy to get to 12 mana, and then just straight up equip Lightning Greaves right there on the spot. And then Lava Spur Boots is debatably even better because you only have to use the 2 mana to cast the Lava Spur Boots and then just use the other mana to equip it. Ideally, either of these are your optimal choices for giving it haste. Some other choices are Cloak of the Bat, Agility Bobblehead because it is also a Monarch, Swiftfoot Boots is an excellent choice as well. I personally have been really liking Hero's Heirloom. Crashing Drawbridge is amazing because it gives your other creatures haste as well. And one of my favorites that I've been really liking in this deck is Fleet Feather Sandals because it gives flying and haste, just like Cloak of the Bat. The last thing I want to mention, I know Monarchs are dependent upon budget, but if you can't afford things like Grim Monolith, Monavolt, and Mana Crypt, there are really easy ways to get to 10 mana without having those cards. For example, Scepter of Eternal Glory and Thrine Dynamo and Basalt Monolith are all ways you can get to 10 mana super easily using Voltaic Key and Manifold Key, which are all cards that are super low costing in terms of budget. These are easy ways to get to 10 mana pretty easily, and you want a hard mulligan for super aggressive starts that either have cards like these in your opening hand, and ways to give haste or ways to double the trigger. For more information, just go into the deck listed in the description. It's right there in the bottom of the video. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the deck. Hope you enjoy exiling people's decks and annihilating people out of the game. As always, if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below. The deck list is in the description. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, stay hyper.